Hello, welcome. This is September 1st, 2021, and thank you all for joining our Cello Law Weekly Wednesday webinars. I hope you all are safe. There's so many issues that we seem to be having in terms of weather, fires on one side and floods on the other. I know we're having a lot of rain here today on our end, and I didn't put my camera on. There we go. We're having a lot of rain on our end, but I am excited to talk to you today about the latest updates. Just for purposes of letting you know, starting from next week, we are going to start talking about kind of revisiting the information we provided last year on downgrades and in anticipation of the October 1st dates. So if you've got anybody in your sphere that is, got my jacket on, that's going to be downgrading again this year, or thinking about filing their, adjustment in October and want some guidance, we're going to be having a lot of great information from next week onwards on how you can do that and the smart way to do that, and some lessons learned from last year. So I hope you'll join us. I hope you will share with your friends and make sure that you let them know, because this would be very helpful if this is what they're thinking of doing. So what are the things we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about travel restrictions today, the ombudsman meeting, and some insights that we've learned from that, premium processing for H4s, and the ALA's Field Operation Committee and their latest update. So let's get started, shall we? So Europe is to impose restrictions on travel bans from the United States. The US, believe it or not, it's sad, but it's no longer on the safe travel list. So the UE will institute new travel restrictions for US tourists, but member countries can have the options of allowing fully vaccinated US travelers. So, if you're planning to go to Europe, you may want to look into that and find out all the restrictions that are in place, especially because, the UE doesn't have a comprehensive, policy on this, and they're leaving it up to the tenant countries, which means that, there could be very specific country-specific restrictions on quarantining and proof of vaccination and things like that. So keep that in mind. Then on the other front, we've got ALA and the Ombudsman had a meeting on trends and issues. One of the things they talked about is customer service, because individuals are experiencing a lot of issues with callback processes, and they're trying to improve on their technology with that. It's a US government, so technology improvements are not as fast as they should be. The US backlogs and processing delays, most inquiries actually relate to processing delays. The Ombudsman is urging USCIS to use technology to resolve transparency and backlog issues. There are policy changes to the F1 bridging policy, and the deference memo restoration should help that a little bit. We're seeing a much better outcome in cases that we filed, and we're not getting those kind of silly RFEs that we were inundated with last year. So this is a good case. And in limited cases where expedited processing is appropriate, they will embark on that. And we've talked about that and what you need to do if you're going to ask for an expedite, and what are kind of the parameters that would meet that mechanism. So reports of delayed or missing requests for evidence. Officers from the contact center also seem to be misinformed about how RFEs are issued. So the Ombudsman is going to raise some examples of RFEs missing RFEs with the USCIS to hope that they can get that resolved. Premium processing update for H-4 visa holders. Now, remember, it was passed through Congress, but the USCIS is not going to automatically restore premium processing for pending I-539s if filed together with premium processing with the I-129, because it would just be, I guess, an administrative nightmare to try to match those up. So probably what we'll see is it will roll out for future applications and won't apply retroactively. So the USCIS Field Operations Liaison also wanted to send an alert to notify members of reports that the USCIS has resumed scheduling interviews outside the standard business hours and on Saturday to try to get as many people in as possible. And we've also seen that there's a lot of 45s that have not had or required an interview. If you need to reschedule, you got to call the USCIS contact center and you got to reschedule for a good cause. Secretary of State Blinken announced American diplomats have left Afghanistan and the U.S. Embassy in Kabul will remain closed for given the uncertain security environment. So there are all the updates today. There's no major updates on processing times and so forth. I know the USCIS is trying to get as many applications in adjustments before the end of the fiscal year. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But I guess we are now ready for Q&A. And just in time, I think our moderator is here or was here, Shekhar. So I think he'll be joining us soon. Remember to put I know we've got a small group today. I don't know if it's because of the rain. Is it because of the rain? Or is it because of, it's just the Wednesday before a holiday weekend? I hope it's because it's Wednesday before a holiday weekend and you all are having fun. But so far, let's answer the first question. I got my H4 and H4 EAD approved recently, and this is by an anonymous attendee. I have been using AOS EAD as the H4 EAD extension did not come in time. Want to shift back on the H4 EAD since the I-140 is pending. Can my employer I-9 again or move to H4 EAD? They can. I don't know if there's necessarily a benefit. I don't know why people are scared to work on I know you're scared to work because your I-140 is still pending, but if anything should happen to the I-140, you can immediately then give them, because then your H4 your EAD pursuant to your I-45 will no longer be valid if the I-140 is denied. So you can move it at that time. You don't have to do it proactively. I just think it's kind of an additional step that's not needed. But that would be my recommendation. Now, the next question is, hello, what is the current processing time for parents GC processing? If you're a US citizen and you're sponsoring your parents, it depends on whether I don't know whether our moderator is joining or not, so that's why I'm going ahead and answering the question. So the current processing time for green card holders is about a year, and you can do it one of two ways. If they're in the United States, they would adjust status in the US, but they most likely will not be able to travel until they get their advanced parole, and the advanced parole is taking at least 6 months. If they're outside the US, they would process at the visa processing centers. And although there has been some priority given to family members of U.S. citizens, given the travel bans and everything else. Everything is backlogged. So you're looking about at a year and a half right now, unless the COVID situation changes and the travel ban changes. So you want to handle the next question, Shaker?
Yeah, I've been here. I thought normally you have 10, 12 minutes of presentation. So
right. No, I had announced our moderator's coming because I thought you were logging on and then you were gone. So I thought maybe you had something.
I didn't come and go. I just came just about 2 minutes, 3 minutes earlier because I thought normally that's when I log in.
All right. So
I had another Zoom meeting, so I may be late this time, but.
So go ahead and ask the next question.
My PD is April 2013. I have all my documents approved and submitted, except did not file I-693 in October 2020. I'm current for September 2021 VB. Are there any chances to get medical RFE before September 2021?
Yeah, you can go ahead and proactively submit the medical RFE, your medical in before the RFE. We talked about it in previous webinars on how you can do that. So take a look at that and it'll tell you how to do it. I know that there are people that suggest you should not do it, but I've been doing it for 25 years and I've never had a problem. And recently, the USCIS has stated that if you did submit the RFE and you have proof, you did submit the medicals and you have proof that you submitted the medicals, even though they make a mistake in trying to connect the files, as long as you can show proof that you've submitted it, like a FedEx tracking and things like that, the letter from the doctor saying that they've been submitted, then you shouldn't have a problem.
Okay. Next question is, hi, thank you for taking my question. Any updates on movement for EB2 and EB3 priority date?
No, we're not going to see much movement until October. Like I said, like I had predicted earlier, the problem is because they're going to be using dates of filing for October, they're going to try to manage, the movement of the priority dates until then. But hopefully we'll see some movement after that time.
Okay. Next one, all these are from an anonymous attendee. So I heard there is a proposed bill included in the budget reconciliation that is designed to help children who have aged out and cannot get their green cards as they have turned 21. Is that correct? Any details available regarding this?
Yeah, there's a number of proposals that are out there, a number of things that need to be addressed. And, it's a bit of a mess right now, especially post issues of Afghanistan. So it's trying to get Congress to refocus back on what's good for the people that are in the United States right now and critical for budgeting and so forth. But we'll keep you posted as soon as we hear anything. If you haven't joined our Telegram group, please do. I think Kara will put the links in. We've got different ways that we communicate with different people. We've got Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, Instagram. But the two sources where you can get the latest information is, number one, if you join our Telegram group, because we're always putting resources there. And if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, anytime we post something up, you will have a notification saying that there's been a new video that's been uploaded. So please use those mechanisms to try to connect and get the latest on the immigration changes.
All right, next one is from another anonymous attendee. With employer A, I have I-485 pending since 30 days. with I-140 approved prior in May 2021. If I switch job to employer B, will I lose my current 485 and need to do everything again? If so, how and who will let USCIS know about withdrawing the current 485?
Right. Well, you're so close. So the I-140 is approved. If the 485 has been pending for 180 days and you're working in same or similar employment, then you can change employers without impacting your I-485. And it's called portability of green cards. So since you're so close, if you can wait a couple of months, then you can meet that 6-month, 180-day period where it has to be pending.
All right, next one, another AA, I-485 transfer between service center, will it delay in process? How transfer will happen? Each time USCIS sends all documents through courier or information transfer update in system.
Yeah, it causes a delay, I won't lie, but it would have been a delay anyway, because the reason why they transfer is because their workload is really high. So I wouldn't see that as a negative per se. And how it works is it usually takes, I mean, back in the day, I don't know how it's doing now because everything is, when the system was working well, it would take about 6 to 8 weeks. It may take a little bit longer now.
All right, next one is from Jatin Jain. File everything together, medicals, 485J for current job, fingerprinting on 9/17/21.
Good, Jethan. I didn't see a question there, but if
That's all, yeah. I think he's just trying to say,
good job.
maybe he's going to follow up with something, but next question from another AA. What happens post September 2021 for those who degraded from EB2 to EB3 last October?
Remember, you didn't degrade. Degrade is like you've downgraded. So it would still be processed. Remember, the main thing that's going to change is the allocation of the new numbers. So although, yes, there would have been numbers that were eligible for allocation this year that may not be utilized. We don't know if Congress is going to do anything at the last minute to authorize that, but it would still get processed in the new allocation.
Next question from another AA. My 485 and 485J transfer from NBC to Texas Mesquite. Any delay in education as Texas process is slow? My priority date EB3 May 16, 2020. My case preliminary review completed and got receipt.
Right. And so, yes, as I said earlier, there would be some delay. It usually takes, just for the physical document, in the best of times, about 8 weeks. Now it could take longer. So I would just keep calling bug Emma a little bit and call the contact information and of the service centers to see where it is and how it's progressing.
All right, next question from Marianne Gela Bosley. I know, and I think the travel ban for European countries is still on. I haven't seen my son, who's in US for 2 years now, and I have only an ESTA visa.
ESTA.
I do not know if there is another solution to reach him. Thank you.
Well, we'll post a link on some of our proposals that we have on the travel ban. It is difficult, and especially now because the US is no longer on the safe travel list. So, that makes it difficult. I think there's the visa allocation, which you don't have to worry about because you're an ESTA, and there's the travel ban. And I'll have my team post whatever the memo that we put out in our last session that talked a little bit about what those restrictions are. And I think that's it for the questions for today.
Yeah, no, don't see any more questions.
Well, join us next week. It is the beginning of September, the end of the fourth quarter of the USCIS fiscal year. So we're going to be in our, home stretch to help you all figure out what you have to do if you've got pending applications and you want to file another one, looking at different options. If you are new to downgrading in this process and want to leverage the October 1st dates of filing date and want to figure out the best way to do it, this is the place you have to be every Wednesday. And please make sure to, share it with your friends and let folks know that, we'll be providing all this great information. And so I think there's another question. Is there another question?
Yeah, there's one here, and I think there's one couple on the chat. Manish Agarwal is asking, after getting green card, can we still get site visits?
Not after you get your green card.
Question from YouTube. Ashok Dara, is it a good idea to wait till October 15th to file new 485 if needed, as fast approval may neglect the mistake? Can I have both 485s active and asking them to withdraw second month if one is approved?
Yeah, you can do that. The requirements are you cannot become a permanent resident on more than one I-485. But there's nothing in the regulations that say that you can't have 245 pending. If you do, I wouldn't withdraw the one first. At one point, USCIS is going to notice that you've got two, and they'll say to you, hey, do you want to withdraw one of the 485s? And you can withdraw it at that time.
Another question from the chat from Raj. What about Eb5 investment information that you said you will be talking about?
Oh, okay. We talked about it last week, Raj. I'm sorry if you missed it. So the thing is, it's kind of interesting. There are two different types of Eb5 structures, and they're two different investment thresholds. There is an Eb5 direct investment, and then there's the Eb5 regional center. Now, the Eb5 direct investment is set into law. The Eb5 regional center was a pilot program that was released on a short period, and it has been extended by Congress year after year after year. This year, it was not extended. The other thing is within the investment structure, there's $500,000 investment and there's a $1 million investment. And how much you invest depends on whether you are in a targeted investment area. So the targeted investment area allows for the $500,000 investment. Now, last year, DHS increased the $500,000 to $900,000. But what had happened was the person who authorized the increase really didn't have the authorization to change the regulations. So a federal district court struck it down. And even though the DHS argued that, hey, the current director who was put in that position in a lawful manner ratified it, the judge basically said it's fruit from the poisonous tree. Now, the USCIS has not changed its policy memo, and it has since then appealed that decision. But the thing to note is they didn't ask for a stay. That means let's stop people from leveraging the lower investment from the time the federal court decision is made to the time the higher court issues it. And there was an alert the USCIS said was that as we're still trying to figure out what to do about this lower threshold, that has been reinstated because of the federal court decision, we will accept applications at the 500,000 level. So we're really not sure. This is my opinion and no one else's, but I seem to think that because the USCIS could have just issued new regulations through notice and comment. They didn't have to go through the issue of appealing this decision. And they waited some time, and they're appealing it just now. They waited to the last minute actually to file the appeal. So I think it was a move to kind of force Congress to act and reauthorize it permanently instead of having to go through this every year. And the buzz within congressional groups is that there may be a compromise from the 900,000 that was proposed last year and the current 500,000 at maybe a 700,000 level. So you've got this time before Congress acts, before there's a decision on the appeal, to try to get into a direct Eb5 investment at the $500,000 level. Understanding that we don't know what the outcome will be. So but there is something in your US jurisprudence where you're not going to punish someone if they filed before the court makes a decision or an agency makes a decision because there's something called detrimental reliance. So usually those individuals are grandfathered in under the lower threshold. And last week, if you look at our YouTube video that is up on our YouTube channel, you will see we had a guest, Daniel Robinson, that was there to talk about how he, even though they've historically been a regional center, have crafted a unique way to allow for direct Eb5 investment. And you can email, Shaker, you want to put your email address in the chat so that if anybody has any questions on Eb5 investment, they can speak to him and he'll connect you to some folks that can help you on the deciding which direct investment to go on process. So I hope that answers your question.
My email there. Couple of questions are coming up. Next question is from Sri Kotamasu. Will there be any filing dates movement in October bulletin?
As I said earlier, not much because they're going to have October they're going to allow for dates of filing. So remember Oppenheim, and we talked about this, that there are a number of formulas that affect how the dates progress. And one of them happened to be, what can the USCIS handle? So if they advance the dates a lot for October and it's for dates of filing, USCIS will be inundated with applications. So they're trying to manage those resources.
Next question from YouTube, John Doe. I don't know if it's really, I'm sorry. Hello, Lakshmi Garu. You both are doing fantastic job updating immigration community with latest news. Can you please talk about Meng's amendment and impact of it on EB2, EB3 for Indian nationals?
Yeah, and I'm trying to work with folks to tell them that the Meng amendment doesn't really make any sense. I mean, on one hand, it does give you, so if it wasn't for the Meng amendment, neither the family-based nor the employment-based could be carried over. So a lot of people fault the Meng amendment because it's carrying over the family-based, which if you look at historically over the past several years, because the family-based allocation has not been met, it really wouldn't impact the family-based petition. So the issue was that she split it and just saying, instead of saying just let's allocate, both of those for all. So it's kind of, it gives you a little bit, but it doesn't give you fully what you want.
All right, a question from Srinivas Murthy. After the medicals are over, on approved 485, how many days we need to wait for final decision?
It just depends on whether yours would be one selected for an approval without an interview. I think that they are speeding up the interviews, and they're going to try to, as I said earlier, have them after hours and on weekends. So they're doing whatever they can to speed up this process, but it would depend on how backlogged that particular local office is.
That's all I see. No more pending questions anywhere.
Well, we want to thank all the team, especially Kara, who I keep telling everyone is, you know, our brand ambassador, in fact, to a certain degree, and does a lot of hard work to make sure that these webinars are done every week. And we will be putting out a lot of information in the next coming weeks about you know, the October dates and how what are best practices. You already have an adjustment. You want to file another one. If you've got age out kids, what are some strategies? So stay tuned. And I want to thank Shaker Chella, our moderator, for joining us today and helping us with our Q&A. And I hope to see you next week, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here.
Thank you. Sorry I was late, but should be on time next time.
No, not a problem. Not a problem. I know that I could hear that you were probably talking and busy, so we didn't want to. We know that your time is very precious, so we are thrilled when you're able to make it. So thank you again. And thank you all. We'll see you next week.